Governor Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's pick for vice president, stated yesterday that within her first few days in office, she would sign the PRO Act bill. So what is the PRO Act bill and how does it impact you? The PRO Act bill is the Protecting the Right to Organize bill. The bill seeks to revise the definitions of employee, employer, and supervisor in such a way that it broadens the scope of individuals who are protected by the Fair Labor Standards. At the same time, it also allows for labor organizations, such as unions, to permit its members to engage in the boycotts and or strikes of another union in which they are not a part of, also known as secondary strikes. At the same time, the bill also prohibits employers from being able to bring claims against the union for allowing its members to engage in those same secondary strikes. This bill also allows for bargaining agreements to take place while at the same time making it illegal to replace and or bring discrimination against workers who participate in strikes and or boycotts against a company. The bill also makes it illegal for employers to hold captive audience meetings. Those are those meetings that employers have that say, hey, everybody come to the conference room, for example, and you don't have to be a member of the union. Here are all the labor laws that protect you, as well as we allow these things as your employer. Well, the problem is that an employer looks out, obviously, for the employer interests, while the union looks out for the interests of its members. So the PRO Act would make captive audience meetings illegal. And at the same time, it will also make illegal the act of employers making employees sign paperwork that waives their right to pursue or join collective and or class action litigation against that employer, right? So there are a lot of protections that are in this bill. And at the same time, or maybe I should say, wait, there's more. But at the same time, this bill also makes illegal adverse action from the employer to an employee who is engaging in protected labor practices, such as whistleblowing. And there are some specific things here that are on the list that this bill details. So an employer cannot take adverse action against an employee who is providing information about a potential violation to an enforcement agency, or an employee who is participating in an enforcement proceeding, or an employee who is initiating a proceeding concerning an alleged violation, or assisting in such a proceeding, or refusing to participate in an activity that the employee reasonably believes is a violation of labor laws. So there is a lot that this bill covers. Now, this bill initially came up in 2020 as well as 2021, and both of those instances it failed. It came up again in 2023. It was brought up by Senator Bernie Sanders as well as Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. And the first person to raise a concern about the bill was Virginia Foxx. No surprise there, right? However, the bill did make its way over to the Senate, and it did pass, by the way, a particular committee. It passed the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee. However, the bill could not pass in the Senate because of Kyrsten Sinema as well as Mark Kelly.
Surprise.
Interesting, right? And it's very, very interesting as well that Mark Kelly reversed his position on this bill once he found out that he was going to be a potential vice presidential candidate for Kamala Harris, which is probably why he was not picked. In either case, take a listen to this from Elon and Trump's space call the other day. Take a listen.
I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But, you know, if you look.
Could there be a reason why Elon is pushing so hard for the PRO Act not to pass, or so hard for Trump to get into office so that the PRO Act will not pass? Could it have anything to do with UAW and Tesla employees organizing? Or could it have anything to do with this? Now, thinking beyond Project 2025, just for a moment, what the mere presence of a PRO Act makes clear is the current state of affairs in the United States, that employees have to be protected from people like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Jeff Bezos because of what our law currently allows them to do legally. At the same time, it also exposes the fact that we can't just focus on the presidential race. We also have to pay attention to what's going on in the Senate as well as the House of Representatives and vote accordingly. Because while it's a good thing to capture the executive, it's going to be really difficult to bring the PRO Act over the line if we don't capture the legislative. And if this election by chance goes the wrong way, and the executive is lost, along with the legislative branch as well, then the inability to pass the PRO Act will merge with Project 2025 to cause immediate and catastrophic consequences, some of which Governor Tim Walz made very clear yesterday. Some of those things would be the elimination of collective bargaining. Unions would no longer be allowed to form, that those who work for the state would not be able to negotiate, overtime and minimum wage would be eliminated, no Social Security, as well as the Affordable Care Act would go bye-bye. These are things to be aware of. Now, just for a moment, I want to speak to my folks that are on the other side of the aisle that are leaning red, thinking about red, or that are true reds. Let's take a look at some Pew Research. And what this is this is the income distribution among Republicans and Republican leaning folks by state. They broke it down. And what you can see is that most folks are somewhere between $30,000 to $100,000 per year. What that means is that the vast majority of you on that side of the aisle report to an employer as an employee. And in that space call, you heard what Trump said to Elon about firing people who strike. That means that you are unprotected, and it also means that you are about to vote against your own interests. And these are things that you are going to have to think about when you go into the voting booth. Now, let's go a little bit closer. This is from the University of Washington and zooms in a little bit closer on the situation. It states more clearly that those with income over 50K among those who are supporters in MAGA is just at actually under 50%. And those who have a college degree are just over 25%. But take a listen what Trump has to say about the Department of Education in that same space call.
But I'm going to do one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education.
So, in other words, you are positioned against your own interests if you are on that side of the aisle. And what you are saying is that you have faith that an Elon Musk, a Jeff Bezos, a Donald Trump is going to come rescue you and look out for your best interests and not their own, despite legal paperwork that says the same. You have some time to think about that between now and the voting booth, and definitely when you get in the voting booth to think about it. For those of us that are on the other side of the aisle, what we must be clear about is that yes, the presidential race matters, but so does the Senate, so does the House of Representatives, and we have to be firing on all cylinders in order to get this done. Okay? So I'll catch you all next time. Hope this helped. See you later. Peace.